And finally, I have tied down, well, not really, virtually, got Julia Wooster, a Butterflies Touch Wellness. I remember the story you told me at one point of how you got into this, and I think it's fascinating. So, how did you get into hypnosis and hypnotherapy as a thing? Like, what was your introduction to it?
My introduction to hypnosis was when I decided when I was 49 that I wanted to finally stop biting my nails. And also at the same time, I was doing virtual assistant work and admin work, which I was good at, but really it wasn't making my life exciting and I didn't really like it so much.
Right.
And so I spent years trying to stop biting my nails. My parents tried to make me stop when I was a kid, and it never took. And then I had hypnosis, and the problem was gone. I stopped biting my nails. And it was really cool to me. I thought this is something I could get excited about doing. And thought, I'm moving into the next act of my life. So I'm going to be 50 in a few months. So this would be a great thing to do going forward. And a couple years later, I had the opportunity to take the training, and I haven't looked back since. I just am so in love with what I do. I love helping people change their lives.
And it's so interesting. I mean, I guess we don't really know why people do things like, bite their nails. Or I remember the girls in school who would twist their hair constantly. And um, it's a habit, but it's like, where did that habit come from? Right? it's
Who knows?
we have these weird habits that aren't necessarily all that good for us, and then we don't know how to get out of it, right?
Right, right, exactly. And we don't know why we have the habits. Something may have happened years and years ago that we picked up those habits or developed those habits maybe to cope with something. Who knows? And then they just became part of our lives. Like back when I was a secretary, if I wanted to get a new job, I could stop biting my nails long enough to get the job. So I could go for job interviews and have great looking nails. But as soon as I got the job and I relaxed, I started biting my nails again, and that just went on. That was like an over and over loop in my
That's so
life.
interesting. I would have thought that the nail biting would become because you were nervous, but it was almost like it was the opposite.
No, I think what it was that I wanted that new job more than I wanted to bite my nails. Like I had a motivating reason to not bite my nails because when I took my secretarial training, we were told when you go for an interview, you've got to look absolutely completely presentable, absolutely as perfect as possible. And to me, that meant having nice looking nails.
Right.
So I could stop when I had that motivation.
So you went originally just to help you, change one of your habits.
Hmm.
That I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter why the habit is there when you're using hypnotherapy. It's just uh yeah, I don't know anything. How do you don't have to know, do you?
Um, in the process that I use of hypnosis, I don't have to know what the client's issue is at all. But we don't we don't consciously know why we have these habits. That reason's kind of stuck in the subconscious part of your mind, which which stores everything you've ever experienced, which causes your habits and your behaviors and how you feel about things. But in hypnosis, you can get you can get beyond the conscious part of the mind and get in and make that change at the subconscious level.
Now, I know some people are going to think, because I used to get see a hypnotherapist quite regularly to unlayer all my layers. Some of my, not all of them, because there's too many layers, but to peel back some of the things that were getting in my way. And people would say, "Oh my God, what if he makes you cluck like a chicken?" But that's not what happens, friends. That's not what happens at all.
Nope.
And I find those little sideshow things give such a, even television and movies give such a poor portrayal of what actually happens.
Well, yeah, if they showed hypnosis as it really is in the movies or on TV, it'll be kind of dull.
Right? Make it more exciting. It's like,
Exactly.
that's not what it's about. And so I know we were talking about the kinds of things. So nail biting, like that's huge for some people. Like imagine like it's painful when you chew on your nails, but you still don't stop. Um,
Exactly. It's painful, and it's also really hard on your self-confidence.
right.
Mhm.
So I know we were talking about how um, you can use like it's like switching some of your beliefs and your behaviors. I guess switching a behavior like nail biting can switch something in your mind. Like if you can stop it, suddenly you have this, oh, I can do that. So then I can also do A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Have you noticed that?
Absolutely. Your self-confidence increases so much when you overcome a habit like that. I had one lady, she had an issue with picking at her skin. And when we met online for her second session, she said, "Where have you been for the last 6 years?" And she literally started crying.
Oh, wow. So, and you
And
can
not
even
because
do
she
it
was sad.
online.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, for the people who don't know where London is because you're not in the GTA, London is in Ontario, not too far from Toronto, but it's not in England. But you can help people in England, right?
Yeah, I actually worked with someone in England a couple of weeks ago, another hypnotist actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I
Like
worked with
just,
people in Germany.
I guess it's kind of like a hairdresser. You can't really cut your own hair. Can you hypnotize yourself?
Sure.
Oh,
All hypnosis really is self-hypnosis.
oh,
As a hypnotist is a guide. You know, I walk them through I take them into hypnosis, and then I kind of provide the direction. Um, one of the processes I use is called the Simpson Protocol, which works with the superconscious part of the mind, and it's a really cool process. I use it about 99% of the time. And in that process, I take the person into hypnosis. Then I'm talking to the superconscious part of the mind. I'm asking it questions like that have yes or no answers. And depending on what the answer is, whether it's yes or no, I ask the superconscious mind to do things to resolve the issue. So the client's really doing the inner work. One person I worked with in California said she did a video about her experience. She said it's self-directed, and in a way, it is. I'm kind of providing the roadmap. I'm taking them through the process, but the internal work is being done by them.
that's very cool. So I don't think I actually realized there were different kinds of protocols. I thought
Oh
they were
yeah,
all the same.
there are different kinds. There's a protocol called Five Path. I'm not going to get into the details of that.
That's okay.
Then there's the kind of typical direct suggestion. Um, there are protocols for pain management. I'm actually doing a course for a certification in pain management. So there's various ways you can do hypnosis. It's not just sort of the old swing, what you see on TV with the watch being swung and, you know,
You're getting
exactly,
very sleepy.
exactly. And
So
so, but yeah, so I mean, it's it's way more dynamic than that.
that's
It's
amazing. And the whenever I think of two things, whenever I think of the watch swinging, that you're getting very sleepy, I think of kindergarten when they used to remember when they used to make us take naps, and I would sit there going, "I'm not tired, I'm not sleeping," but that's a whole different topic. But the superconscious is different than the subconscious.
Yeah, we have the conscious, then we have the subconscious. The conscious mind is like where we are right now, which is responsible for the logical decisions we make, the rational analytical ones. The subconscious mind is where all of our beliefs are stored, and it believes everything is real. It's why you cry at sad movies. When
Oh,
you relax watching TV or watching a movie, you move beyond your conscious mind into your subconscious, and your subconscious mind thinks that what you're seeing on that screen is real. And that's why you cry at sad movies.
I can
The
cry at
soup,
a Kleenex commercial. Are you kidding?
oh my. Hey, I used to cry at the end of The Littlest Hobo when I was a kid. I don't remember that show or not,
I
but
do.
every week that German Shepherd went walking down those railway tracks, and I always cried because he didn't have a home.
Oh, the poor little
Literally, I cried
guy.
every time.
Oh my
So
gosh.
we have our things we cry at. But the superconscious mind is the higher part of the mind. It's like your higher self, which may sound really woo woo and strange, but it's amazing. Like the stuff that can happen in that area when you work with that part of the mind. It's kind of like the Google of the mind. It knows everything about you. And I've had clients at the end of a session say, there were times when the superconscious mind said yes, and I was thinking consciously, no, the answer should be no.
Oh, wow.
But the higher mind knows. It's just, and that's the process I use where I don't even have to know what the issue is, which is pretty interesting.
Right. Yeah. Because I could see, having been through it, I could see if the conscious mind was answering, it won't always tell you the truth. Right.
Right.
The conscious mind has its opinions and what it's willing to tell you. So if you have to know, the conscious mind will go, nope, not telling you, not telling you. That's a secret. I'm not telling you. But if you don't have to know, then I guess that world opens up the world to anything, right?
It does. And it takes any judgment on the hypnotist part out. Not that I judge clients, but, I've had people in here crying and it's like, okay, so I just hand over the box of Kleenex to them.
Right.
Because they have their, feelings come up, and it's pretty I've had some people make some real life changing experiences in this. Here.
So we talked, so there's nail biting, and I know people use it a lot to stop smoking,
weight loss.
Those are kind of your standard things, right?
Those are kind of the standard things everybody automatically thinks of when they think of hypnosis. There's fears. There's fear of flying, fear of heights, fear of falling, fear of public speaking.
That's huge for some people.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. I've read that people would rather have a root canal without anesthetic than get up in front of people to speak.
Not me.
No.
Maybe if you had talked to me, like 35 years ago, I would have gone for the root canal, but I've worked my way past that.
Worked past it. Good.
Trust me, people, just get up and speak. You won't die.
Yeah. There's the old picture of everybody naked, right? Or in their underwear.
I just picture them all as my friends. I'm like, oh, there's all my friends out in the audience. If I saw them naked, I probably couldn't look. It'd be like, oh, God. It's like naked yoga. Oh, God. Oh.
Then there's negative beliefs because, like limiting beliefs. Like, how many people do you know they're afraid to ask for a raise because, they were brought up to say you don't talk about money, or money doesn't grow on trees, or people like us don't deserve to have, whatever. I mean, my parents were like that. I mean, to this day, I still say to my husband, turn that light off. Hydro's expensive. I grew up hearing that. And I mean, that's all stuff that gets implanted and imprinted when you're little.
Yeah, because you don't know any better, right?
No, well, it's not that we don't know any better. It's that little kids believe everything because, like, remember I said the subconscious mind believes everything is real? Well, little kids are in their subconscious till they're about 8 or 9 years old.
Oh.
Until their critical factor kicks in, which is a part of the mind between the conscious and subconscious. I like to compare it to a receptionist.
Okay.
Because, like if somebody's afraid of a dog, like they may have been bitten by a dog when they were little.
Right.
And so let's say you were married, you were afraid of dogs, and your kid wanted a dog, and you thought, well, I need to get over this fear because, Johnny wants a dog. And so you'd make that decision, but then that critical factor would check in with your subconscious and say, Heather wants to get over her fear of dogs. Can we let that suggestion in? And the subconscious mind would say, nope, I'm checking my programming. And Heather was bitten by a dog. Dogs are dangerous, so we're not going to make that change. And so if you went into hypnosis to get over that fear, in hypnosis, we send the critical factor away. It's like we tell it to go away to the movies for an hour, go off and have lunch.
The receptionist is off duty.
Exactly. The receptionist is off duty. And so when that check-in point isn't there, if that change is something the person really wants to make and it won't hurt them or it won't be bad for them, that change should go in it's like taking a hot knife and putting it through a piece of cold butter. Just slide right in there and change that inner program.
Cool.
And so little kids start around 8 or 9, little kids get that questioning. They're asking a lot more questions and they're challenging. Like a 10-year-old, if you tried to tell a 10-year-old, there's no guy named Santa Claus and he wears a red suit, he lives in the North Pole, do you think that 10-year-old would believe you?
No.
A 5-year-old would.
Totally a 5-year-old would. Oh my God. No question. Of course
I've
there
only
is.
met one. I'm sorry?
Said, of course there is a Santa Claus. Let's go.
I've only ever in my life met one 5-year-old who didn't believe in Santa Claus.
Was that the parents doing, you think?
No, because I believed in Santa Claus when I was his age. It's my youngest brother. He's 22 years younger than me. And I remember once taking him to get a video game at a store, and the clerk said, "So, are you looking forward to Santa Claus coming?" And he looked up and said, "Oh, I would if I believed in him."
Oh my God. So he was already born super evolved.
Yeah, no kidding. And that kind of blew us both away. I was like, "What?" Okay.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, that's the only little kid I've ever met who did not believe in something like Santa Claus.
And I don't know if it's the feed that I get on my social medias, but it's interesting talking about, beliefs that you get, because maybe it's I mean, obviously my feed is curated for me because of the business I'm in, but there seems to be so many people who are doing money mindset, change your money mindset, do this, do this, do this. I'm like, wow, is that a new trend, or did I just notice it now? Because
I think it's been around for a while. But yeah, those fears can get really, really, really locked in young when you hear things like, I mean, so many, there are so many adults who'll say with their kids around, "Well, that person's driving a really fancy car. What do they do to deserve that?" Or, "Wow, that's a pretty big house. So I wonder how they can afford that." And just they put that attitude on their kids, and kids grow up with it, and they grow up, not being brave enough to go in and tell their boss, "Yeah, I want a raise," or negotiating. They'll take less.
right.
And so, and those are things that are programmed into the subconscious mind, and hypnosis can change that.
So between the conscious and the superconscious, is that a different receptionist, or is that the same receptionist?
Same receptionist. It's like when you go into hypnosis, when we start off in a hypnosis session, before you sit down, you're in the conscious. And then as you go into hypnosis, I use what's called an induction to take people into hypnosis. They relax, we bypass the critical factor, and we get into the subconscious. And the superconscious kind of mediates between the conscious and the subconscious. I'm speaking to the superconscious, but it's basically directing the work in all parts of the mind
Oh,
and making the changes.
it's like the CFO or president or something. I was trying to picture the hierarchy.
That's one way to describe it.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not sure anybody knows the exact way to describe it. We all have our own ways of describing it, I guess. But that's kind of that's a really good way to describe it. But yeah, it's the all-knowing, it's the higher self. It's, again, it's like the Google of the mind. And I kind of smile every time I tell a client that at the beginning of a session, because I once told a 12-year-old, it's the Google of your mind. It knows everything. And she said Google doesn't know everything. And I thought, you gotta love children. You really have to love children. That's so funny.
Well, first of all, Google does actually kind of know everything. Sorry. Like, if you know how to ask.
12-year-olds know more than Google, apparently.
Well, 12-year-olds know more than everybody. But so you see children as well.
Occasionally, it's not something I do a lot. I prefer working with adults because I prefer working with people who are over 21. That's kind of my preference. But if somebody comes in, calls and says, "Well, my daughter has this issue," or my son has this issue, I'll see them. But I want the parents here in the room when I'm with them.
Right. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Even as a massage therapist, if they're underage, usually there's a parent in the room.
Like in my case, like I have 2 rooms here, and if I'm seeing them in person, and so the parent, we should stay out in this room, we'll go into the back room. But I also record the sessions so people can be assured that it's going to be pretty safe. Nothing's going to happen.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, as we were saying, like, you are in control. It's not like
Absolutely.
you can make them cluck like a chicken, unless they really want to cluck like a chicken. Have you ever had
Exactly,
somebody?
unless they want to, and that's the thing about stage shows. Stage people think, well, they're on stage, they were hypnotized, and they do something really silly. It was beyond their control, and nothing could be further from the truth. The people who are on that stage agreed to be on that stage. They agreed to be part of the show. They gave their consent.
Right,
So, and if they didn't want to cluck like a chicken, they wouldn't. And stage hypnotists are trained to know who are going to be good subjects.
right. Yeah,
You
that
know,
makes sense. You don't want someone going, forget it, because then the show would be over.
yeah. Well, if you ever watch a stage show, typically the hypnotist will bring a bunch of people because people will say, "Yeah, I want to be part of the show," and he or she'll bring them all up on stage, and he'll do some hypnosis with them, and he'll do some testing with them, and he can pull out who's going to be the really good people, and he'll keep them on stage, and
Right,
probably send the rest back to the audience to watch.
right.
And so they
Yeah.
know, they know, they know, they know how to choose the right people to make a good show.
And it's so
But
funny. I mean, like, I think it's too bad that hypnosis gets that kind of um, stigma is too strong a word, but so that kind of association, because it can be so helpful for people, right? Um,
absolutely,
fears, like I just think of all the things people are afraid to do. So I can't. Maybe it was a daytime TV show. This woman who was afraid of kittens. Like, who's afraid of kittens? And but even in business, there is, if you have a job, there's being afraid to ask for a raise or to advocate for yourself. But
hmm
if you own your own business, so many people that I know, they drag their feet. They say, "Oh, I'm busy doing X, Y, or Z," but really it's just because they're afraid to kind of step up and be whatever it is they need to be for their business. And those aren't like the phobia fears, but I feel those are like the holding yourself back fears. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, people who are afraid to, kind of like with asking for a raise, negotiating to get to get the price they deserve for their business, for their
Right.
service.
And that maybe goes back into the oh, that rich person is a
Hmm.
terrible person because your dad said so, right? Or whatever it is. So yeah, it's so intricate. Like the brain is wired so. What's I was listening to something. It's a buzz phrase, what's fires together, wires together. That whole
Haven't heard that one.
oh, that's a Joe Dispenza-ism, or that's where I heard it anyway.
All
Um,
right.
yes, neural circuits that fire together, wire together, but that doesn't mean you can't change the circuitry,
Nope. You
right?
can't. If you can rewire a house, you can rewire the programming in your mind. I mean, how many old houses in the city of Toronto had knob and tube and have been completely rewired so they can get insurance?
I had one of those.
Mm.
I, I remember the first house I bought in Toronto. You have to rewire the whole house. What? But you just get someone to come in and help you and do it. And the other comparison, which you've kind of said, is like is software, right?
Hmm.
You
Programming.
can change the software. The hardware is
Yeah.
fine, theoretically. The hardware is
Yeah, it's
fine.
like a data. It's like I like to compare the subconscious. I think I might have said it already, to a database,
Oh,
and you can pull up a record in the database, change it, and save it, and same thing.
right. And we've talked about the nail biting, and what did you call that? Repetitive behaviors. So,
Um, there's a whole bunch. There's a series of behaviors, and it's classed in a category called body focused repetitive behaviors. It's like nail biting, hair pulling, skin picking. There's a whole list of them. I've worked with the first three. I've worked with the skin picking, the nail biting, and the hair pulling.
right. I
And
can
yeah,
just think of like so many
there's
little habits people have.
yeah.
And then now you said, did you use hypnotherapy to quit smoking, or were you just using that as an
Oh,
example?
that's an example.
Okay.
I actually used laser therapy in Toronto because this is like over 30 years ago, and hypnosis wasn't even on my radar then.
Right.
And so I found a place up in North York and booked an appointment and went in and had a laser session. And then she put these little acupuncture needles in my ears and said, "If you feel a craving, press on these, and it'll take care of the craving." And it did.
Wow.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
I know some, not a whole lot about auricular acupuncture, and I know they use it for addictions. But
Mhm.
I think I thought you used hypnotherapy because you said it was easier to stop biting your nails than to quit smoking.
Actually, no, it was easier for me to quit smoking than to quit biting my nails.
Oh, you mean without the hypnotherapy?
Yeah,
Oh, I get it.
because
Okay.
I use laser for that. I mean, and that's a valid way to quit. I think it's a valid way to quit smoking because I know it works.
Right.
But yeah, but no, it was, and I think part of it was because I've been biting my nails for all my life,
Right.
and I'd only been smoking for 10 years. But when I quit smoking, I was a pack and a half a day smoker.
Whoa. Whoa.
Uh,
How are your lungs now?
oh, great.
Much happier. Much happier. It's
I actually just got them X-rayed. They're great.
oh, good.
Yeah.
Thanks, medical system,
Okay.
for checking all that out. And we talked one time because, and I just want to mention this one because I thought it was fascinating. I mean, when I hear, you know, hypnosis for weight loss, I think, you're going to try and convince me that I don't need to snack. But, and I don't need to snack. I just
If
like
you
to
want to
snack.
stop snacking, yeah, I can help you with that.
Right. But I liked you said it's a virtual gastric band.
Oh yeah, I love that process.
And it's so
When I do the
fascinating.
well, when I do that, I use the virtual gastric band process, usually for the first session, and in that first session, the mind believes or imagines it's had surgery, and a band has been placed around the top part of the stomach to create a small golf ball sized pouch, so that they eat less. And
Right.
in the program, the idea is that there are gold. There are what they call 7 or 8 golden rules that you follow. But basically, you follow these rules, and you have this first session where the surgery is done. And so basically, the idea is you eat 3 meals a day, and you don't snack in between the meals, which gives your body a chance to start burning fat. Because if you're constantly eating throughout the day, your body's constantly processing food and it's not getting a chance to burn the fat. So I think that's the reason for the 3 meals a day. It could be kind of like a very small scale version of intermittent fasting, I suppose, if you go 6 hours between meals. But I know there's all kinds of intermittent fasting things going on out there. But in this process, it's 3 meals a day and no snacks.
And I guess you've been using, how long have you been using that process?
I've done that with people for about 3 or 4 years now,
Oh, wow.
off and on. Yeah,
I remember the comment that you made that they have to want a change.
absolutely, and
Right.
that's yeah. Everybody who books a consultation with me, when they book their consultation online, there's a little questionnaire I get them to fill out just to get some information of what they want to work on. And one of the questions on that questionnaire is, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being extremely motivated, where are you on that scale? And if I see a number less than 8, I will reach out and say, I'm going to ask you to reschedule this when you can at least get to an 8 on that scale. Because if they're not motivated, they're going to waste their time, my time, and their money. And I don't want to do that to anybody.
Right. And I guess that means, like, if I decided, oh, I want my spouse to do XYZ, that's not conducive. Like, you couldn't book it for someone else because
No.
they don't want to do it. They're only there because their wife sent them. Right.
Yep. And I ask about that. And I'll say, are you doing this for you? Or are you doing it for your spouse? And if they say that they want to do it because of their spouse wants them to, I'm going to say, and how about you? Do you really, really, really want to stop smoking? Well, no, not really. I don't. I like it too much. I said, well, then I can't help you.
Right.
You've got to call me back when I can help you. Like a few years ago, I had a call from this young lady in December, and she said, "Can I get a gift certificate for my boyfriend to quit smoking?" And I said, "No." And she said, "No, what do you mean no?" I said, "Well, here's why." I said, "If he doesn't really want to quit smoking, you're going to be wasting your money. And you're probably going to annoy him, which is not going to make a good Christmas day for you."
No, exactly.
So I said, "Here's what you can do. You can make the gesture, and it will not cost you a penny." And she said, "Great, what is it?" I said, "Book a consultation for him. Book just for time for him to come in, and we can talk. And then if he decides he wants to quit smoking, you can give him the money, or you can pay me." And so she did that. And so I said, "Listen, we'll book it. I'll email you a confirmation, print it off, put it in the Christmas card, and buy him something, by the way.
Yeah.
Don't give him something." And so she did that. And they came in here together. And after half an hour, he said, "No, I don't really want to quit smoking." So she was able to show him, A, she cared and made the gesture and made the offer, but it was up to him whether he wanted to accept it or not.
Right. And that
So
makes more sense.
he knew she cared, and he was happy about that. But he was also happy that he didn't have to feel bad if she gave him something that cost money
Right.
that he wasn't going to use.
Yeah.
You know,
And it's sometimes I wonder if people convince themselves that they want something, even though they don't really. I guess
yeah.
it's like knowing for sure that it's a change that you want. And I guess it's knowing why you want it as well, right?
Yeah, there has to be a reason why you want to make the change. In my case, I just did not want to be 50 years old and still biting my nails.
Right.
Suppose that I thought, come on, I'm a grown up. I've got to get over this silly habit. Well, not silly habit, but habit. To me, it was silly because I tried so hard, so many times to stop. And I remember some of the things my dad used to say to me, not like threats or anything, but I remember one thing he said, this is how hardcore I was. Like, if I do something, I'm all in. I mean, if I was going to smoke, I was a pack and a half a day smoker.
Yes, definitely.
And my father basically said he had a friend. I grew up in New Brunswick, and he had a friend who had, I think, lost the tips of his fingers, like in a accident or something, and he had no fingernails on this one hand. And my dad always said, if you don't quit biting your nails, your fingers are going to grab over your nails, and they're going to look like his. And it was like, that wasn't even enough to scare me to.
Oh my gosh.
And
That's like
you've got to be ready to make a change, and I wasn't, not for years.
right.
Yeah. So
It's like they use that burning platform example. It's more painful to stay where you are.
Yeah.
Than to make a change.
Even though it may be scary to make the change, I mean, some people may get a benefit from having a habit. They may like the attention of being told to quit smoking because they're getting attention paid to them. Who knows? I mean, that there's just some kind of there's a gain in it for them. They're not going to be ready to break that habit.
Well, and I've had this conversation somewhere in my past where every habit that you have, even if it's a bad habit, was originally formed for a good reason, like what you perceived as a beneficial reason. And beneficial, like you said, it could be an attention thing. It doesn't mean that the habit, like you wouldn't hurt yourself on purpose because
No.
it's like you had something in your psyche somewhere has said, this is why I was very shy when I was little, very shy, had a very habit of being shy. And that was a protection device for whatever reason that I decided I needed, but it wasn't serving me. I didn't use hypnosis to get over it. I just kind of clawed my way out slowly. Yeah. I had to find my own way out of it because I didn't know about hypnosis back then. But, I still have some of those tendencies that I can recognize and go, oh, why are you doing that? you're trying to protect me from something, but it's okay. I'm good. So all of these habits that we have, whatever they are, sometimes we don't even recognize that we have things that are holding us back, right?
Yeah, and something you just said, something I need to say is I don't get into the why someone has if a client comes in, I don't try to analyze to get into why they have the behavior they have, because I'm not a psychiatrist or I'm not a psychologist. That's way beyond my pay grade. That is not what I do. And that's something that's very important that people need to know. So I am not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist. Um, and I do not pretend to be one, which is why if someone starts asking me a lot of questions, like, well, why do you think it is? And I'll say, you know what? That's beyond my scope of what I can do.
And they probably don't even know why they do it, right?
No,
You don't know why
but
you were biting your
you,
nails.
I have a pretty good idea, but I'm not going to
Mm,
go into it because
no,
it's very
that's
personal.
your
But
thing.
yeah, but I think I do know why I had that habit.
Okay.
Um, but that's just me. Some people do know why they have the habit. Some people don't. Um, I had one guy who came in for this particular issue, and you know, he kept trying to figure it out. He talked to his mother, and she reminded him of something. He said, "Well, yeah, maybe that's where it is." And so when he came in for his session, we were able to take him back to when he was that age and just kind of reframe it. And he got over the issue, which was pretty cool.
That's amazing,
Yeah,
right?
but yeah, and people don't remember why they have that habit. I mean, a lot of well, some people may, some people may not, but and they're deep down. It's stored in there somewhere. When I did the training for the 5 path, which I think stands for 5 phase events transformational hypnosis, um, the person teaching, I did the training on video, and the trainer, he talked about using an example of a person who was afraid of spiders. And in the hypnosis session, he took him back to when he was 3 years old, and he saw his mother open a cupboard door and freak out over a spider. And so in his 3-year-old mind, he equated spiders with being terrifying,
Right?
And so in that process, he took the person back, to a few minutes before his mother opened that cupboard door. So, in a few minutes, your mom's going to open that cupboard door and she's going to see a spider and she's going to freak out, but don't worry, it'll be okay. And he took him through the process and said, okay, what's going to go? Mom's opening that cupboard door and she's screaming. And how do you feel? Oh, it's funny. She's screaming at a spider.
Right.
And in that example, the guy got, and this was a real case this guy had, a real client this guy had, and the guy was over his fear of spiders after that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I
So
gotta talk to my mom. Mom, if you're listening, you can go overcome your fear of bees.
you can go
My
what? I'm
mom
sorry.
once parked, we were 4 of us in the car. She parked the car and jumped out of the car and left us all in the car with a bee. I'm like, Mom,
Oh, wow.
seriously? That's how afraid she is of bees. Leave the kids in the car. They'll be fine.
And how are you with bees? Okay.
I'm okay actually with
Yeah.
bees, but funny enough, I don't like spiders. Just the big
Mm.
gooey ones. I think I watched too many spider movies, like scary horror movies when I was a kid or something. Which isn't good when you go camping a lot because there's spiders
No,
everywhere. Oh
no
my gosh.
kidding. Yeah, I don't mind spiders. I don't mind seeing them in the house because I know, okay, if they're here, there's something worse not here.
Right. Go eat the bugs. Go eat the bugs.
Yeah,
True
exactly.
enough. True enough. And the uh what are I because I want people to understand how helpful hypnosis can be. I mean, we talked about some of the standard things, but what are some things people might not have thought of that could help them, like that you could help with? I mean, we talked about fears and habits and weight loss and smoking and all those things, but are there things that you think people wouldn't normally think of that?
Yeah, things like procrastination. A habit like procrastination. It's people, a lot of people procrastinate. And I've worked with people before. I remember saying once to somebody, yeah, I just worked with someone who had an issue with procrastination. And the person said, well, everybody procrastinates. I said, yes, and not everybody does something about it.
I'm procrastinating dealing with my procrastination.
Exactly. Think about that tomorrow, the Scarlett O'Hara effect, right?
Right.
I worked with one guy for procrastination a few years ago, and he said, I was talking to him a few weeks later. So how's it? He goes, oh, great. He goes, I make my list every Sunday night now for what I have to do this week, and then my wife adds to the list.
The honey-do list.
Story.
Probably because she knows that he'll do it, right?
Yeah, he made his list was it every night or every Sunday? I can't remember now, but yeah, he sat down and he made his list of what he had to do, and he would check it off and get it done, and it helped him do that.
That's amazing.
So yeah,
I Yeah.
procrastination. There's so many things. It's If you look online, you could probably find a list of 100 different things hypnosis can help with.
Wow. I guess anything that's a behavior based, right?
Behavior or feeling. I'm really excited to get this certification. Soon, hopefully, when I get the course finished, for pain management, because wait lists are so long now to see specialists that
Right.
I think there's a real need for that now. Like, I was talking to a friend, and her brother has an issue with his hip or his knee, and he had like a 22-month wait to see a specialist about it.
Really?
Yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah. And so hypnosis is fabulous for pain management.
And pain really affects quality of life. I mean, it
Absolutely.
becomes kind of all consuming if you can't find a way to manage it, right?
Oh, for sure, for sure. And you can only take so much Tylenol or Advil. I mean, it's pain is the worst. I mean, I remember seeing my grandmother before she had her hip replaced, and she was just in agony.
And it also impacts everything else. I mean, I think of hips and knees from a therapist point of view. It hurts, so you stop doing things, but that actually kind of makes it worse. So you get stiff and sore because you're not moving because you're in pain, and that cascade of impacts that happens. And you probably feel kind of a bit hopeless, I guess, and like,
I
will I
think
ever feel
so.
good again?
Absolutely. I mean, the only time I've had that kind of pain was when I had plantar fasciitis, and that just drove me crazy. And eventually I got over it. I got the proper orthotics, but that was painful.
And
And I mean,
yeah, it is painful. I've had that too. But it's how like how I can't even imagine how hypnosis would help with pain because you can't stop the pain, right?
no, but you can control the mind's very powerful, very, very powerful. So you can use the mind, like you can use hypnosis to deal with hot flashes and menopause. You know,
What? It's like, what? Okay, ladies, this is when you have to really listen.
I only worked with
What?
one person for it so far,
How does that even
and
happen?
you know what? In the session, there's a hypnosis process called the menopause relief program. It was created by a British hypnotist named Helen Brewer. And I bought the course. I did the course. I got up at 5 o'clock in the morning one Saturday morning to take the course with her because it was starting at 10 o'clock in the morning England time.
Right. Okay.
And so if I wanted to be in the course, I had to be online at 5 in the morning. And so
Oh,
I did the course. And I've had one client who was willing to do it, who was willing to have hypnosis for it. And in the process, I took her into hypnosis, and I did part of the process. And as part of it, when she was in hypnosis, I put an ice cube in her hand and just connected the feeling of coolness with the key word. I think the key word was ice or something. And I just said, basically whenever you feel a hot flash coming on, just close your eyes, breathe it, take those breaths, and just think the word ice or think the word cool. And you know and it worked. And when she first came in, she was having 5 or 6 or more hot flashes a day. And when she came in for her second session, I said, so how did it go this week? And she said, oh great, I only had one. I said, what, one a day? She said, no, one all week.
whoa.
I know, that's exactly the words I use. That was a real technical term. Wow.
That
But so it does work. The mind's very powerful, very powerful.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, controlling reaction, like not changing the fact that you're in pain, but changing the processing. I remember when I was taking acupuncture, our instructor said, um, pain is in the brain.
Mm-hmm.
And, the nerve endings are just reporting something. If you
Mm-hmm.
stab your finger, the pain isn't in your finger. It's just the nerves are reporting to your brain saying, by the way, your finger's hurt. So your brain goes, oh my God, I'm in pain. But I guess if you can unplug that part, that's very
Yeah.
fascinating.
Well, think about it this way. Imagine, just think if you're out kayaking or doing something in the outdoors, and later in the day, when you're getting ready to go to, get in your sleeping bag, you look down, oh my God, where did that bruise come from?
Oh my God, don't even
Obviously,
get
you
me
might have
started.
bumped or done something that probably should have hurt, but you were so involved in what you were doing, you didn't even notice it.
Yes, kayaking bruises are a thing.
I believe it.
100%, those are a thing, especially if I've been teaching courses. No, I am not
Absolutely. So, I
abused.
mean,
I'm just a kayak instructor.
think about a little kid. A little kid's running along and falls down and bumps himself, and they get up and they start to cry. You know, you'll get the mom or dad that'll pick the, oh, you poor thing, blah blah blah, and the kid will just keep crying and crying and crying. Then you'll get kids that have parents like my father, and you run, the kid falls, it hits the floor, and the dad will say, "Oh my God, you put a crack in the floor." You know what? Dad did a pattern interrupt, and the kid's attention went from hitting the floor to, oh, where's the crack?
Right? That's
Crying
amazing.
stop.
That's
And my
awesome.
dad used to say that, oh my God, you cracked the floor.
And you never sat there weeping and wailing, did you? Unless you really hurt yourself, but like
Absolutely not, because
blood
you know what?
gushing or something.
You really weren't hurt, or you weren't hurt that badly. Obviously, if the kid broke their nose or broke a leg, yeah, they'd probably keep crying. But um, no, I mean, it was like, the kid fell, they hurt themselves, suddenly, and then the parent distracts their mind from what just happened to, oh, the crack in the floor.
My sister actually used that when my nephew would climb on things. She'd go, are you going to get your gravity lesson? When he would fall, he'd get up and go, gravity.
And then you jump, right?
And then he'd be fine. Oh,
Yeah.
gravity, darn it.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just like I said, it's the mind. The mind is very powerful. I mean, you were talking about movies and TV and stuff, and I remember a MASH episode where the MASH unit ran out of their painkillers. They had all these wounded soldiers that had been in post-op, and I think it might have, I don't know if it was Father Mulcahy or someone said, oh, I've heard about in the East where they can make people think that if they think they're getting painkillers, they'll think they've got painkillers. And the show was about them putting stuff, probably sugar or something, these little capsules, and think this is a very small pill, but it's very, very strong, so you can't have too much. And of course, in the show, they had no pain.
Right.
But I think what they were doing was almost kind of doing a form of hypnosis called a negative hallucination, where they thought what they were getting was real, so they believed it.
Yeah.
And
I guess that's a little bit of what the placebo effect is, right?
could be. I mean, I remember when I first learned hypnosis. Excuse me, it's very dry in here today.
Mm-hmm.
I was practicing on a friend, and I wanted to see how deeply I could take her into hypnosis. And so I took her I took her very deeply into hypnosis. And at one point I said, okay, there's a clock in the wall in front of you. Please describe it to me. And she did. She perfectly described a clock. There was no clock on the wall.
Wow. But she could see something.
I told her there was a clock there, so she saw a clock. It's called a negative hallucination.
So the hypnosis should not be used for evil.
No, you know what? Did you say not used for evil?
Yeah, I'm just like, there's a giant flesh-eating monster in front of you. Like,
No, I don't think you could do that. First of all, the person has to want to go into hypnosis
right.
and be willing to. And obviously, if I told someone that if I had told her, oh, there's a big monster, she would have opened her eyes.
I said, what?
Because remember, they're always in control.
Right.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Man, I'm still marveling at the hot flashes. My mind is stuck going, what? Hot flashes? That's a thing? Because those are things that I think are physiological. Those aren't things that I imagine as being like because I guess I think of hypnosis as for subconscious things. So physiological things, I think, well, that's a chemical reaction, even though they can't really understand why it happens. So how would
Well,
that work?
there are some places where in the world or where they can take a person can be taken so deeply into hypnosis, they can have anesthetic or they can have surgery without with an anesthetic. I can never pronounce that word. But think about the people who walk on hot coals.
Oh, right.
They're walking over burning coals, but they're not feeling anything.
Are they getting burnt? Hmm.
I don't know because I've never tried it.
No, I've never really wanted to run across hot coals. Isn't that a
You know,
Tony Robbins thing?
I think so. We were driving home from Toronto on Monday because we had to go into Oakville and Toronto, and that was an exciting trip, I'll tell you.
Mhm.
And we were driving home listening to, I think it was CBC, and they were talking about the Stanislavski acting school method, and that method, the method acting thing, and actors were talking about how they could, go in and think about an experience and just get into this character. And the way they were describing it, I looked at Peter and I said, that's basically self hypnosis.
Wow.
They're hypnotizing themselves into character. I mean, at least that's how it appeared to me.
Right. Well,
You
you
know,
could think about the method actors, like they're so intensely in that.
focus.
Yeah.
They're focused and they're concentrating, and that's what hypnosis is. It's a state of focused attention,
Very
focused
cool.
concentration.
Which can do so many things.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. Very cool. I continue to be amazed by
Well, the last time
by
we
the
spoke,
world.
I said the offer. If you want to experience what this is like and what the Simpson protocol is like, um, the offer it's an open offer to you, Heather. If you want to experience it, I'm happy to do a session with you.
We should do it, and then I'll do a podcast about what the
That'd be cool.
experience was and how fabulous it was. That'd be very cool.
Yeah. Oh, it is fabulous. I reached out to somebody, like I said, a couple of years ago, and said, "Hey, you know what?" Because I knew this person. She's an influencer in the, woo woo in the psychic world. Because I love these guys. They're really great. I really love watching these guys. And she had a shamanic. She had talked about an experience she had with a shamanic healer, or interviewed one or something, and thought I'm just going to reach out just for help. All she can do is say no, and I reached out, and that was stepping out of my comfort zone. As doing this podcast is with you today, and
It's just us. It's just us.
I just said, I've learned this really amazing new hypnosis technique. Would you like to experience it? And she said, yeah, sure, I'm down for that. So we did it. And of course, she threw a bit of a wrench in it because, yeah, I want to do this on past lives. I want to see where my past lives have affected me now and all this. And thought, okay, well, I haven't done the past life protocol for this. So I'm going to have to kind of MacGyver it. And so we did it. And I was just kind of flying by the seat of my pants because A, I just learned it a couple months earlier. And B, we were thrown into past life stuff. And
Right.
it was amazing. And she did a half-hour video about it on YouTube. And the day that came out, I spent the entire day responding to emails.
That's awesome. The power of influence, right?
Yeah,
But
no
also,
kidding.
I mean, the fact that she could share her experience and what happened, right? Which is so good. So we're totally booking an appointment
Absolutely.
just to see how it goes.
Yeah, and we can do it for whatever you want. If you just want to do something for fun and games like past life, we can do that. Or there's the SP has some kind of cool protocols to it. They have a kind of a spiritual one where you kind of go up the 12 chakra ladder and get to divine, which is pretty neat.
Whoa. It's almost like a pickle barrel menu. There's too much to choose from.
Too many things. There's even a birth protocol for it.
Like giving birth or birthing yourself?
Giving birth.
I don't need that one.
But I did it once with somebody in Germany.
Right?
And it was
I could
cool.
totally see that.
Yeah. Oh, it was so neat because I've been working with her on she was doing some past life stuff, and then she emailed me one day and said, "By the way, I'm due to give birth in about 2 or 3 weeks. Can you help me with that?" I thought, okay,
Totally.
yeah, we did, and we in hypnosis, I basically had her to the point where she could get herself so numb that she could pinch her inner thigh and not feel any pain.
Wow.
And I think a week or so went by, and I just, shot her an email and said, "So do you need another session before you have the baby?" And she said, "No, I had him last night." And she said, "I'll tell you about this sometime, but right now I'm wiped." I thought, okay. And I didn't hear from her for about 2 months. And I was working with her parents, and they were down in the States. And one day I connected online with her mom and dad, and her mom held up her cell phone and said, "Oh, that's a nice picture." And it was actually my client and her baby on FaceTime.
Oh, wow.
And
That's
so we had a
amazing.
chat, and I said, "How'd it go?" And she said, "Oh, she said, I got to the hospital around 10 o'clock, and they gave me a shot for the pain. And the midwives are saying, well, this is going to take a while. We got lots of time for coffee breaks." And then she said, "I had the baby at 1:45 in the morning." She said, 3 pushes, no pain, no screaming. He was out.
Wow. That's
And
outstanding.
and I said, "Well, with that pain shot you'd had at 10 o'clock, would that have impacted it?" And she said, "No." She said, "It had worn off." And I checked with a friend who's a nurse, and she said, "Yeah, that wouldn't have lasted that long."
Wow. So many things. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's amazing. It's
So powerful,
I,
right?
I love it. I just love hypnosis. I think it's the best thing in the world.
Do you have any final words of wisdom for people?
Words of wisdom.
Anything.
Anything. Relax and enjoy life, because life's too short to be stressed.
So true. That's perfect. Actually, that's a perfect way to end. If you're
All right.
stressed, call Julia. Right? My friends, definitely investigate hypnotherapy, hypnosis. It will blow your mind. I mean, my mind is still blowing, but we'll follow up with this one for sure. Thank you so much, my
You're
friend,
welcome.
for
Thank you.
joining me. So great to talk to you. Always so great to talk to you. We will come back around again. This will be an ongoing thing.
Absolutely.
All my friends out there in the world, take care. Take care of yourself. Have an amazing day. Live your life.